Welcome to another episode here at Kim Talk on one more session of Ghost Story, where this week's story I pick from Spooky Corner and told by Anonymous. I also rewrite some parts of the story to paint a clearer picture of the incident, and this week's story entitled Haunted Apartment at Wangsa Maju. Back when I was a student at a college, I stayed in one of Wangsa Maju's apartments. Although nothing particularly significant happened to me during the times I stayed there, but I remembered this one particular weird incident that until today I could not explain what it was. You see, the apartment block I stayed was designed in such a way that resembled the letter C. Meanwhile, the room I was occupying at that time was located just next to the corridor. The layout of the room that I slept on was a square room with windows that if you peek outside the window, you could see people walking up and down the corridors. My bed would be on the other side of the room, opposite of the window. And that one particular night, when I retired to bed, it was a rather quiet night at first, and I could hear the noises of my room ceiling fan, and though I was a little worn out after a busy day, but I could not fall asleep. Perhaps it was the tea that I had right before getting into bed. Although I could not recall what time or why I slept late, I remembered my restlessness was due to the sounds coming from the corridor. It was probably about 3 or 4 in the morning, with students occupying most of the rooms of where I stay. It was actually quite common to hear people walking around, regardless of the time, even during wee hours. But on that particular night, I hear slightly louder footsteps going on and about, and I was irritated because the footsteps does not seem to be slowing down. In fact, the sound of the footsteps kept going on and on for quite some time. At one point, fear suddenly hits me because the footsteps keep walking back and forth. The sound was so clear because of the late, quiet night, and it seemed as if the sound vibrated from just outside my windows. Although my windows had curtains decorated, but the curtain cloth was so thin that it barely shields any lights that functions to illuminate the corridor. If anyone would have passed by, I would have seen some shadows or even silhouette of that person, but there was none that night. Through a few minutes of the rattling, I braved myself to take a peep at the window, and deep down I wish I saw some random occupants of my apartment walking around. Though there were many other images pop in my head when I slowly approached the window, when I take a look, there was no one there. Not even a shadow at the corridor. Just the dim corridor like any other normal nights. But the footsteps kept going on, walking up and down the corridor. I can't remember how long the sound of the footsteps, but it was just enough to keep me awake the whole time. Then, out of a sudden, it stopped. Now, everything seems to be rather quiet, and I can hear the sound of my ceiling fan again. I was relieved to find the sound of the footsteps were no more longer a nuisance or a reason to let my imaginations run wild. After the sound had subsided, I tried concentrating on sleeping again and kept telling myself that perhaps there was really someone just walking back and forth at the corridor. Right when I was about to finally get some rest, probably just about few minutes after the sound stopped, my worst fear came back when I heard the sound coming again from the corridor. This time, instead of footsteps, I heard sounds of chains. Hairs on the back of my neck rose immediately as I could hear clear as day sounds of chains dragging along the corridors. It was as if someone or something was dragging a heavy metal chain and he was walking slowly at the corridor. The sound of the dragging chains continued for quite some time, and as sudden as it came, it left. Until this very day, I cannot explain what was the sound on my corridor. If it was human, why there was no silhouette passing by my window? And why I did not catch a glimpse of them as I took a peek at the window. I did talk to some of my mates about the incident, and they mentioned it could be the Chinese mythical deities Niu Tou Ma Mian, which are translated to bullhead horseface, the guardians of hell, which also are the Grim Reaper in Chinese belief. And that night, they might be wandering around to collect souls that has expired here on earth. Thank you very much for listening in once again. For those that has enjoyed these stories, remember to subscribe and also click on the notification button so you'll be notified once I've uploaded another story. And for those who might have such story to share, do drop me a comment down below. Once again, thank you, and do check out my other videos by clicking on the boxes that should be appeared by now.